At this point, being a Mets fan is just a Groundhog Day of misery.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. When the Mets lost in extra innings on Saturday, I told myself, no chance am I going to go on and record a show, because I was and am exasperated by watching this Mets team. But then, as the day wore on, I went over to Subtext for our Locked On Mets Insiders, our texting service, and I saw 30 texts of Mets fans who were just inconsolable and went back and forth with some of you. But to me, this is therapeutic to get on the mic and talk about this team and try to, I don't even want to say make sense of what's happening, but just document, make it historical. Put an episode out that signifies what happened on May 25th, 2024. Because I could talk about it on a Monday show, but who knows? Maybe the Mets will actually win on Sunday. It doesn't feel like it. Doesn't feel like they can possibly win a game, but maybe they do, and you wouldn't get a gut raw reaction of what was just another ridiculous game. I kept the same intro, the same cold open from yesterday, because that's what it is. It is Groundhog's Day. You wake up, you have some optimism. You say, today's the day the Mets are going to win, or they're at least going to be able to not embarrass themselves when they lose. And sure enough, you get to the later innings of the game and something happens and you're just scratching your head. Not only are they losing, but they're losing in painful ways. Another thing I didn't change going to the show today. If you're watching on YouTube, the first section over the side of the first bullet point on our notes for today's show. You can't make up how the Mets are losing games. You just can't make it up. Luis Severino gives the Mets a gem on Saturday. Second game in a row where you get a quality start from your pitcher. You're getting length now from these guys. Only had to get 6 outs with the lead. Starling Marte hit a home run. Brett Beatty hit a late home run. You had 2 runs. Luis Severino gave up just 1. He retired the first 12 batters he faced. He walked the leadoff man in the 5th, but then got the next 3 guys out. Then in the 6th inning, got the first out. It was not until the second batter of the 6th inning that Luis Severino even gave up a hit. And all told, 7 innings pitched, allows just the 1 run on 2 hits, 3 walks, strikes out 6. Great performance from Sevy. So you just need to get 6 outs. Adam Ottavino comes in. He holds up. He gets those first 3 outs that you need. 9th inning, who comes out of the bullpen? Edwin Diaz. Now, I know a lot of Mets fans are saying, or were thinking then, and still probably saying now, why did Edwin Diaz pitch in a 1-run game? My counter is, who else are you going to? Because Sean Reed-Foley pitched in the 10th inning of this game, and he didn't look much better. Jorge Lopez pitched the night before, gave up a home run. Reed Garrett was definitely burned after all the pitches he threw. Jake Diekman, how good has he looked? So I get in a safe situation, despite everything, going to Edwin Diaz. But Edwin Diaz cannot get out of his way. This was a moment for him to come through, lock down a 2-1 victory, and you would have felt like the Mets got away with something. Because as good as Severino was, the lineup, not good. 0 for 13 with runners in scoring position in this game. 0 for 13. In a game that was knotted up at 2 going into the bottom of the 9th inning. How many other opportunities could one hit have pushed across the run that would have allowed the Mets to win that ball game? And yes, granted, 3 of those at-bats with a runner in scoring position took place in extra innings where the Mets went down in order. But fine, 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Just brutal stuff. So Edwin Diaz comes on with a 1-run lead. He gives up a hit to Wilmer Flores. They grab a pinch runner for Flo. He strikes out the second batter he faces, but the pinch runner steals second base. Then he gives up a hit to Lamont Wade, tie ball game. Really, though, when you're judging Edwin Diaz meltdowns, not even the worst one. By a long shot. He gave up 2 singles. Granted, the second one, Lamont Wade hit, could have been a double, but Starling Marte's got a cannon and he threw him out at second base. But still, he didn't give up a home run in this one. Ultimately, the real fault when it comes to why the Mets lost here is the lineup. I mean, look up and down. The ninth inning even. Tie ball game. Scratch a run across, you win. Brett Beatty draws a walk, and you get a gift. There's an error that allows 2 runners to be on with 1 out, and you have a chance to win the ball game. Francisco Lindor grounds out. Pete Alonso flies out. And then the 10th inning rolls around, and Sean Reed Foley gives up 5 unearned runs, which is crazy math how that happened. But the ghost runner is going to be unearned, so he gives up a leadoff single right away. Giants grab a lead. Then he gives up another single, but he gets a double play ball. And Pete Alonso butchers the throw. Francisco Lindor, as much as it was a bad throw, he could have at least secured 1 out. But Lindor doesn't catch the ball. It's, just like what they would say in football, right? The ball hits your hands, you got to catch it. The ball hits your glove, you got to catch it. It was a bad throw, but he still could have caught that ball. But this team is just finding ways to lose, and that's the worst possible thing that you can have. So the inning continues without an out there, and then, it all goes downhill. He walks in a run, Foley does, gets a fly-out strikeout. They bring in Josh Walker to face a lefty. He gives up a bases-clearing triple. Mets down 7-2, and that's all she wrote. But you look at all the different missed opportunities. First inning, Francisco Lindor, leadoff double. How do you not get the run in when you have a leadoff double? Like, play some small ball, figure it out. And Pete Alonso did the right thing. Situational hitting. Did he get the run in himself? No, but he did advance the runner. He hit a ground ball to second base. He did his job. Move Lindor 90 feet closer. He's sitting right there on third. Brandon Nimmo, who's not an RBI spot, batting third, strikes out. Then JD Martinez strikes out. Nimmo struck out 4 times in this game. JD Martinez struck out 3 times. Like, those are the guys that are supposed to be coming through for you. And in this one, they did not. Third inning, Francisco Lindor draws a 1-out walk. Mets can't do anything with it. Fourth inning, DJ Stewart's hit by a pitch. Jeff McNeil draws a walk. So you have 2 runners on, 2 out. Brett Beatty comes up. Of course, he strikes out. And the funny thing is, Brett Beatty had some bad at-bats in this game, but he had a home run. So now you probably keep him on the roster a little bit longer because at least he came through in a big moment. But I still don't know if that's the best thing for him in his development. Regardless, after Brett Beatty's home run, Omar Narvaez draws a walk. Tyrone Taylor comes in to run for him, steals second. So a base hit in that opportunity for Francisco Lindor would have, in the grand scheme of things, won the Mets the game. He has a shot. Stepped into the box, and nothing is near the zone. But Lindor swings at some bad pitches, some sliders that he said after the game he wasn't picking up. And so it ends up being a full count for Francisco Lindor, where you would think he should have known that the pitcher might come to him, but again, he wasn't picking up his breaking ball. So in that moment, Lindor decides, I'm going to punt this at bat. I'm not even going to take part in it. I'm going to put the bat on my shoulder and see what happens. Hopefully he throws a ball because he wasn't near the zone at all. And even if that's your game plan, even if you say, I can't see the slider, so I'm going to take this pitch, I'm just going to hope that I can pass the baton to the next guy. Even though it's a situation where you need a hit, not a walk. But I digress on that. In that moment, at least look like a hitter. Don't take a pitch in a 3-2 count like it's 3-0. Because you have any idea how bad that looked? The optics of that, it was the worst strikeout I've ever seen in my entire life. Worse than Carlos Beltran. How about that? Lindor's hero. At least Carlos Beltran struck out after being unbelievable in the NLCS, and it was a back-breaking, unbelievable curveball from a guy that, not a Hall of Famer, I guess, and Adam Wainwright, but a Hall of very, very good. I mean, and Beltran was at least in that at-bat. Beltran was caught flat-footed with a nasty breaking ball. Francisco Lindor didn't even try. Put the bat on his shoulder. And I am as big of a Francisco Lindor supporter as you're going to find. How many times have I gone on this show against what everybody else in the fan base has said and said, look, this guy's going to figure it out. He's still hitting the ball hard. He's still one of the best shortstops in baseball. I have called him the best shortstop in baseball for a long time. I think the kids have come and they've taken that mantle from him. When you look at guys like Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt that are just unbelievable this year. But Francisco Lindor, I always have considered an upper echelon shortstop, and I still do. But he does not help himself out in a moment like this, because this fan base is split on the guy because he makes the most money on a team that's not performing, and he hasn't performed. And it's been a running theme. So I understand why he gets a lot of hate from the fan base. Is it out of line most of the time? Sure. But with that narrative that's out there, with everything going on, even if you can't pick up the breaking ball, you got to at least look like you're trying to swing. You got to. Because honestly, he was so out on that, it almost feels like the pitcher could have caught onto it and just grooved one in there. Seriously, he could have thrown a fastball by Francisco Lindor right down the middle, and he would have no chance to hit it. None. Because he didn't give him a chance. He didn't give himself a chance. He just stood there and put the bat on his shoulder and said, please walk me. And that right there is a microcosm of everything wrong with the Mets right now. That they're not grabbing the bull by the horns. They're not doing everything they can to put an end to this. And yes, I know those guys are trying hard. I'm not trying to say that, oh, put me in their shoes, I'd do better. I would suck. I would strike out every single time if I was sitting in a major league batter's box. But it does not change the optics of it when you strike out like that, when the team's in this type of a slide, in a moment where you could have added an insurance run that would have proved to be the difference in the game. And no, you put the bat on your damn shoulder and you have no intentions, no matter what happened, to take it off. This team's as frustrating as any I can remember. And last year, we saw the 2023 Mets come off a 101 win season and an off season where they were hyped as the biggest winners, and they just completely blew it all year long. And we lived through 6-19 June or whatever that was, right? Well, now we're looking at May of this year. Let me pull up the exact record because it feels like it's just as bad. And I know that I said it the other day that there was a chance that it could be worse because the Mets had enough games left here to lose more and even win less. Yeah, they're 6-16 now. So 3 losses away from matching last year, and they have more games than that to play with this month. And it feels like they're never going to win again because guess what? You get swept by the Giants and then the Dodgers come to town. Are you not going to win a game until the Diamondbacks? And can the Diamondbacks get right against you? Absolutely. If that's 4 more, for one, worse than June of last year already. And 2, you're just an embarrassment right now as a team to keep on losing like this. And I'm not trying to be the guy that piles on them. But this fan base, like Steve Cohen said yesterday, right? Fan base really cares. Francisco Lindor has said it. He learned from Carlos Beltran. They're not booing you, they're booing the results. And the results have been awful. So, do I still believe that this team can play good baseball? They have enough talented players in that locker room to make some stuff happen as far as not even playoffs. Let's put that way, way away. Let's not even discuss that as a possibility right now because we're going to talk in the next segment about a piece they can sell. So we're already moving the conversation in that direction. But can they give us 2 weeks where they actually play good baseball and make you feel good to want to tune in each night? I still think they have a capability of doing that. But right now, they're the worst team in baseball the way they've been playing. And it does not feel like there's any end in sight. But I will talk a trade candidate in the next segment because Luis Severino is looking like the prize for the New York Mets at the deadline. I want to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. First, though, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget, and they do all the shopping for you. It is the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You just log in, You give them your size, your style, your budget preferences, and then they also will show you a slideshow of different clothes. So you say, oh, I like that. I don't like that. I like that piece, and that piece, but I don't like that piece. And what that does is it gives your stylist an idea of what you like to wear, and then they're going to send you a personally curated box. They'll send you 5 just for me pieces, no subscription required. They'll just send you a box plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. And you keep what works, you send back what doesn't. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to go into the department stores and get into the fitting rooms and try things out. That's not for me. This makes it so much easier. Box gets sent right to my door. I try everything on at home, see what I like. I keep what I like. And what I don't like, just head over to the post office, send it back free of charge. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. That's what Stitch Fix provides. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you can send me questions anytime. You can also just complain about the Mets to me anytime. We can vent together through this rough period. You also get the lineup graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's going to be in the starting 9 without having to go to social media. You also will take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaway. So if you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now, there's one optimistic angle that we can take on the Mets right now. I'm not even talking about their play on the field. It's the fact that if they are forced to sell at the deadline, they have pieces to move. And the best piece I think they're going to have that's going to get them the most value at this trade deadline, it's not Pete Alonso, it's Luis Severino. Luis Severino is pitching like a frontline starter right now. 3.22 ERA. Second time this year he's carried a no-hitter deep into a game. He's got great stuff. And if you look around the league at the other pieces that could be moved to the deadline, you can make an argument that Luis Severino is the best rental available. Seriously, that is how good he could be here. That is how good of a trade piece he could be to the Mets. Look at the teams that aren't going to sell off their pieces. Phillies, Dodgers, Braves, Brewers, Cubs, Yankees, Guardians, Mariners, Royals, Twins. That's 10 right there. They're not selling. Teams I doubt sell, Giants, Padres, Diamondbacks. They're all in the mix right now in the wild card. Rangers, Astros, they'd have to be really out of it, and I still don't see them selling. Rays, also I don't think are sellers. So, all right, that's 6 more teams. You already cut the league in more than half. So now you look at the other teams. Cardinals, could they sell? Possibly. What do they have that's more valuable in their rotation than Luis Severino? Sonny Gray, but are they going to trade him when he's on a 3-year deal? I don't necessarily think so. Mitch Keller's locked up for the Pirates, so I don't think he's going to be moved. Jared Jones, Paul Skeens, they're pretty much untouchables. Bailey Falter maybe gets moved, but he's having a good season. He's not a guy that teams will look at and say, no, Bailey Falter can start a postseason game for us. The same thing can be said about Trevor Williams for the Nationals. Look at the Rockies. You got Cal Quantrill having a lot of success, but still don't think teams are going to look at him even and say, ooh, definitely a guy I want to start an all-star game. You have Eric Fetty, who's throwing the ball well in Chicago with the White Sox, but again, doesn't have a track record or the level of stuff that a Severino does. And then you got Tyler Anderson with the Angels. So all those names that you throw out there, none of them pops the way Luis Severino could. The 2 guys that do, Jesus Luzardo, who's got 2.5 years of control the rest of the season, 2 years beyond that. And the other one is Kevin Gausman. Now, the Blue Jays have struggled a lot this year. They might decide to make a move and trade Kevin Gausman because they could get an absolute haul for his services. He's under a team-friendly deal based on how well he has pitched over the last couple of years. Although this year, it's a 4.47 ERA, but I think teams would look past that because he has been a top 10 Cy Young finisher the last 3 years, finished 3rd last season, led the American League in strikeouts. He has been fantastic. He's a guy that could get moved and could fetch a lot, but he's also making north of $20 million and has a couple years left on this deal. He's not a free agent until 2027, so he's got 2 years left beyond this season at $22 million per. That's not even attractive to all teams unless the Blue Jays are eating money. And even then, there's still future money that teams have to navigate and negotiate with. So if the New York Mets take Luis Severino and his $13 million and Steve Cohen eats down the rest of the prorated salary, because of course he's going to do that. He doesn't have to with Sevy because other teams are probably taking on. But if you can juice up the prospect capital by saying, we're going to eat the money and trade him. I mean, you could get a really good offer here. Like you could get something close to what you got last year for Scherzer and Verlander. Not all of it, but one of those two trades. Verlander, you got two guys who are top 100 prospects. I don't know if you're going to pull that off, but could you get one great prospect out of Luis Severino at this year's trade deadline with the way he's pitching and with the need that's always present for starting pitching at the deadline? Absolutely. And we'll talk at probably a later date this week about how the Mets were built to sell. I'm going to go through that. There's other pieces that can be moved. Sean Manaea, if Jose Quintana's throwing the ball better by the time you get to the deadline, he's a guy you might consider moving. Of course, you have the bullpen pieces potentially that could always get dealt. There's JD Martinez, who I think would be moved in that scenario if the Mets were out of it. Pete Alonso as well. Like there's a lot of pieces who could go, Harrison Bader. But of all of them, the one that I believe will get the best prospect, it's from Severino. And that's even greater than if they were to trade Pete Alonso. And that's also why I don't know if they will trade Pete Alonso, because I still am a little wary to believe that they're going to get more for Pete Alonso in a trade than they'll get for him as a free agent who gets a qualifying offer and you get a comp pick if he doesn't sign. But you still leave that window open where if Pete Alonso hits the market and doesn't like what he's getting, he might come back to the Mets on a contract that ends up being a lot more team-friendly than you might believe right now. But regardless, Severino continues to pitch great. I love they're on a 6-man rotation for this type of an opportunity too, because you're keeping Sevy fresh for the next team he might get dealt to. You're trying to keep him from getting injured. And if he can continue to pitch like this for 2 more months, I'm telling you, that's going to be an unbelievable contract for the Mets because they would have got a lot of value out of him this year and they can turn him into something for the future. I would also note that there is another world or another view on this where if the Mets found a way to actually play decent baseball, he's a guy that they might hold on to. Like they might trade a Sean Manaea because maybe they're not in love with the second year of that deal and maybe there's another team that needs him. But I think you can look ahead to next season and be okay if Manaea's not in your rotation. There is a world where the Mets say, you know what, let's just hang on to Severino because the prospects that we're getting back aren't that much better than if we extend him a qualifying offer. And he's a guy that could get QO'd by the Mets. He really could. So that has been probably the best signing of the offseason for the Mets to see what Severino has done. It's been very impressive. I'm looking forward to making his next start. What I'm not looking forward to is finding out how the Mets will lose today because they're definitely going to lose, right? How many times do I have to say it for the reverse jinx to hold? The Mets are going to lose. There's no chance. They're getting swept. They're going to lose all the games against the Dodgers, and they'll probably lose 3 out of 4 to the Diamondbacks. Come on. Jinx them. Let's see some good baseball today, hopefully. That's all I got today. Just a 2-segment show. We'll break down some more Mets baseball on Monday. I appreciate all of you who tuned in to hear me vent. I think I was more frustrated yesterday. I think I'm getting defeated. But I appreciate you as always. I appreciate the Locked On Mets insiders who were texting me throughout the day today. It was fun, I guess, to interact with you all. Commiserate in our sorrows. It is always nice. So I appreciate all of you. Subscribe there. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. If you're listening on the audio side today, follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button for me. Trying to get a push to 9,000 subs. So I appreciate all of you. Continue to subscribe. And thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, head over to the first ever 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube that covers everything in the world of sports. Talking about Locked On Sports Today, your place to go to stay up to date on all the latest in the NBA and NHL playoffs. Check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube.